Think bigger in translation. Okay, so what we're going to do in this video is we're going to talk all about the field of translation. Now, these days, this has become a really big job. It's often something that people will do on a freelance basis, or maybe they'll work for an agency. And the reason that it's become so big is obviously because of globalization. Businesses want to expand into alternate markets. They want to expand their customer base, they want to expand their presence, and they want to offer that in markets that they think they can sell it quite well in. And as such, translation services have become quite big. Now, what we want to do is we want to talk to the typical translator, the ones who are going and working on an hourly wage, or for some of these bigger companies. We think that you are not necessarily realizing all your potential. And what we want to do is we want to give you some ideas where we think you can do much bigger and much better things. Things that are more interesting and can earn you a lot more money. So in this video, we're going to talk about why we think you should do it and some of the different ideas that will get you there. And hopefully by the end, you'll be inspired and potentially think about maybe changing exactly how you think about your career. So let's get into some of those ideas. Okay, so why don't we start off with what your skills are? Now, the fact is that language and translation are actually really valuable skills in today's economy. So what are they specifically? So first off, obviously, you know a language. Perhaps you're a native of a country, and perhaps you're working in a country where it's a different language, people who don't necessarily speak that. So you know the language, and you can do the direct translation. But not only that, you know all the nuances of that language, the slang, the expressions, and all the different things that a native might know about it. So very valuable skill for a business that wants to expand into another market. What else? You really understand their culture. So again, we're assuming that you either are a native or you've lived there long enough where you've picked up on some of the cultural nuances. And we know that every culture is different. So for a business, you're valuable because you understand that target market beyond just translating the language. You know their culture as well. You also have some of the unique knowledge about that market. So beyond just the words and the translation of that language, you know things that someone who's never been there or hasn't grown up there might not know. And that might include things like laws, regulations, some of the customs of that market, buying patterns of the people who comprise that market. Those are all very valuable from a business standpoint. What else? You might have a network within whatever country that business is looking to expand to. So you might know who's influential, who can provide the right services for whatever they're seeking. And if you don't know those people offhand, if you don't know them on a personal level, then you can easily find out where they're located. It might be through search. It might be through referral. But the fact is, you know how to build a large network in whatever that market might be. Finally, you might have something that's very valuable, and that might be citizenship. So foreign businesses often need to be owned by citizens. The same goes for real estate. Often that needs to be owned by a citizen of that country. And that has definitely some business value. That means that you can be the host of really helping those businesses set up within that country. So that citizenship has value, and we think that you should be able to use that to your advantage. So with those 5 skills, gosh, you offer something so much more valuable than what the average translator is doing. So let's go a step deeper. So the typical jobs that a translator might have are really underutilizing those skills. And not just on a little bit, but you're severely underutilizing them. So let's go into detail. So what are the common jobs? A lot of translators will do so on a freelance basis. So in other words, they'll do jobs at an hourly rate, or maybe they'll do it on a fixed fee. But that provides a lot of limitation. Number one is that hourly rates are minimal. You can achieve so much more with those really valuable skills. Number two is that if you're not working, you're not earning. It all depends on you actually showing up for work and bringing those skills to the table. We can show you that you can do so much better. And then finally, there's questionable advancement potential. So as a freelancer, once that gig is finished, there's rarely anything beyond that. You might be able to sell to that same client, but again, it's just a process that repeats itself. You're not moving up in the world, you're just going from gig to gig to gig. So we think that that provides a lot of limitation in terms of all the different skills you have and really limiting your potential. So what else? Another typical job is to go work for a translation agency. So with this, you're just doing whatever work is assigned to you. They'll give you a project. Maybe you're translating a book or a website. Maybe you're providing one-on-one services for somebody who's going to that market. But the fact is that the agency and the client are getting rich off of your work. They're expanding or doing business in this other market. You're the one that's enabling that, and they're the ones that are benefiting. You're just getting your normal salary. In addition, you can't really pick what clients you're working with or what projects you're working on. So as a translator, your job can be quite monotonous. You might just be translating word for word, and honestly, that's not all that fun. That's not all that exciting. So you're leaving those skills into a really monotonous job, and we think you can do better. Finally, there's corporate jobs. Now, that's just working for a multinational company that might expand overseas or might have a business presence overseas. So at that point, you're doing a job, and you're doing that for a fixed salary at an existing business. Now, the limitation to that is that there's always going to be a ceiling to advancement and earning. You're always beholden to what your skills are and what that company can utilize those skills for. And often that's pretty limited in terms of their ability to move you up and then make sure that you're earning what you're actually worth to the company. They're just going to pay you a salary. In addition, corporate environments lack any level of creativity. So going back to that point about your job is kind of monotonous and boring, well, it can be that with a corporate job. You're going to be doing the same thing day in and day out. It lacks the creativity that we probably think you have as somebody who knows multiple languages, knows multiple markets. We think you can do much, much better. So to really bring that point home, we really ask that question, why do people do those sort of jobs? You have a really, really big skill set, and there's a mismatch between the skill that you have and the professional outcome that you ultimately get. So a couple different ways. Translators are very worldly. They learn that language for a specific reason, and they've probably traveled and understand multiple markets. But the typical jobs are very structured. You're doing one job, and it's not going beyond the direct translation of that language. So there's a mismatch there. In addition, translators are generating significant ROI. You're the ones that are enabling these businesses to expand overseas or to actually do that business. But then you're getting paid on a salary or an hourly wage. That's not necessarily commensurate with the ROI that you're bringing to the table. So again, a mismatch. Finally, we know that translators can be very communication-centric. They're the ones who are able to talk to somebody in a different language or provide written communication in a different language. But what are they typically doing in their jobs? They're translating text directly. Or maybe they're being used as an intermediary in a specific conversation between business entities. Again, there's not much of a match there. You're a communicator. You're someone who can think for themselves and has done great things in their life. But all you're doing is basically being an intermediary. We think you can do a lot better. Okay, so the moral of the story is that something needs to change. We know that you're capable of more. You can think bigger and better. You can better utilize your professional time. You can be forever innovative in your career. It doesn't have to be that monotonous job. You can earn what you're worth and what you're bringing to the table for these businesses, and you can seize the opportunity in front of you. So why don't we show you some different alternative methods for you to use those translation skills and do it in a much more effective way for your career and just how you think about that career as well. So a couple of examples. So 4 different options, and we're going to go through each of those. And the common theme here is that rather than just translate, you're offering more than just translation services. So 4 different ways. Let's go through them each. Number 1 is that you could be an international deal broker. So what does that mean? It means that you're connecting businesses to the different services, and you're acting as an intermediary in more than just the language. So when a business is looking to expand overseas, or they're looking to do business in a different market, there's so much more that they need than just direct translation. And you have the opportunity to broker those services. So that might be something like a legal and regulatory thing within that new country. It might be hiring vendors in that country to do marketing, to do operations, to supply them with whatever raw materials they might need. So by connecting business to the services that they need within that new market, you're actually providing a lot more value than just translating word to word. You're expanding your skill set and your offerings. And as a result of that, you can be compensated in much more creative ways. So one way might be to take a cut of the deal or to get equity within the new country's business, whatever entity that they would set up. You're brokering that deal, and you deserve to be compensated in a way that is commensurate with the value that you're bringing. So just to give a quick example, so let's say that you work at a company and they're looking to expand into a new country. You know that country because you were born there or you lived there and you know the language. But you know more than the language. You know how businesses operate there. You have a network there. And if you don't have a network for what they need, then you know how to find the right people for that. You know the business environment. You know the customers and the different customs that that customer would have, the different expectations that they have within that market. You know the competitors. You know so much about that deal. So you decide, rather than saying, you know what, I'm going to be an hourly wage and I'm going to help that business. No, you say, I'm going to go independent and I want to take a cut of that deal in exchange for providing my expertise and my services and all of the above. So that's what you do. And that can be any different industry. It can be any product or service. It can be any business, because we know that there are so many businesses looking to expand overseas. So be that deal broker. And that's so much better in so many different ways compared to what you're doing today as a translator. Okay, what's another example? Another one is to do a profit share type model. So in this instance, you're managing the business in your native country. And you're providing, obviously, more than just translation services. You're managing the entirety of that business. And the way that you would get compensated in a deal like this is that you're getting compensating through the profits that you generate. So in other words, let's say that a business wants to expand overseas. Instead of going and setting up a management structure of people who don't know that language or don't understand the business, you understand both. And so you say, you know what? I'm going to be the person who sets up that business overseas. I'm going to create the entity, and I'm going to manage everything that it happens over in that country or in that location. Rather than taking a compensation as a salary or something like that, you say, you know what? I know the business too, and I'm going to achieve excellent results for you. I'm going to maximize your profits. Instead of being an employee of that company, you can be a partner with them, and your compensation would obviously be a part of the profits. So you're utilizing all of the different things that that business already has set up, all their resources and the established model that they've already been successful with in their home country. But you're helping them expand to this new country that you already know so much about, and you're taking action to make sure that they can replicate that in the new country. So really, really interesting model, and much better, obviously, than thinking of yourself simply under translation services terms. What else? Another one is to provide full-on equity. So in this instance, you're doing a very similar thing. You're managing the business, and you're utilizing the original company's resources. But instead of taking on a profit share type of an arrangement, you're saying, nope, I want a piece of the business. I want to be a full voting member. I want to take the risks, but I also want to have all the rewards of that business. So it's a very similar rationale to the profit share arrangement, but in this instance, you're a full-on partner, and you have equity within that business. And that might be something that they require anyway, because like we said, sometimes being a citizen of a specific country is actually part of the legal and regulatory requirements of that particular jurisdiction. So definitely a way to think about being more than just a service provider, but actually being a partner in that deal. Now, finally, you can go outside of the business itself. You don't necessarily have to work or even partner with a business, but you can actually use the existing business model or the product that they're already offering and do that and replicate that in the country of your origin. Now, in this instance, you're not necessarily partnering with anyone. You're not utilizing another business's resources. You fully own the business. And you can ultimately go work with partners. Maybe you license another business's content, or maybe you just replicate it all together. And this happens all the time. So let's say that you see a business that's very popular, very successful in one country, and you think, gosh, why don't we have that in my home country? And you decide, you know what, I'm going to start it. I'm going to replicate the exact business model that they have, and maybe modify it for local tastes or local factors of some sort. But at the end of the day, you're replicating it and you're starting your own business. You're an entrepreneur, and you're just borrowing some of the things that have worked elsewhere in the world. You're not necessarily copying every last thing that they do. You're not translating it. But you're noticing, because you have dual cultural knowledge, and you're replicating it in a way that can make that successful in the new market. So these are 4 different options. You can be a broker, you can do a profit share or an equity arrangement, or you can just say, you know what, I'm going to start my own business based on something that's already been successful before. In all of these ways, you're still utilizing your translation services, but you're going above and beyond that. You're going above and beyond the skill set that you typically would use in your traditional translation job. So the moral of the story is you're offering so much more and you're realizing your potential. Definitely thinking bigger in translation services. Now, we want to end with how you can work with us at Reverse Tide. We provide a lot of different opportunities for somebody who has these skill sets because we recognize the value that you have. So what are the different ways that you can work with us? Let's go through a few of them. So the fact is, our aspiration is to work and have a presence in many international markets. But right now our content is 100% English language and it's based out of the United States. We'd love to change that though. That's our future aspirations. So you can partner with us by providing your skill sets to help us do exactly that. So how would you do that? One way is maybe to translate our content into other languages. So we wouldn't necessarily want to pay you a fee to do that, but we'd be looking more at one of those other structures in order to do that. Maybe you would market our content to other countries, so utilizing your expertise and your language skills, your knowledge of the local market, you would be able to take our existing products and then market that or sell that overseas. That's something that we're certainly interested in doing, and again, using one of those 4 different methods of doing that. Another way is maybe to set up a sister domain in other countries. So we have a website right now, and you could ultimately get into a partnership with us where you can utilize our content but set it up in another domain. Maybe you help with some of our business services and help us find clients in other countries. So we offer business services for virtual reality as well as for training and education services. So if you can find us international clients and broker those deals, then gosh, you should be part of that deal. And obviously you can utilize some of your skills in terms of translation, in terms of understanding the market as well. And then also we're seeking real estate deals, specifically within the hotel industry. And if you have the ability to broker that deal in an international market, then by gosh, we'd be very interested in talking to you about it. So definitely a lot of different ways. And the idea here is, again, to think like an entrepreneur, think like a deal broker, think like a partner, because that's ultimately what we're seeking. So if you'd like more details in terms of what we're looking for in terms of a partner, or if you have ideas to provide the type of services that we just outlined, then we'd love for you to get into contact with us. And you can do that at Reverse Tide under our Partner With Us page, which you can see the domain right there, reversetide.com/partnerwithus. So hopefully we've given you some food for thought. Hopefully we've allowed you to think that, gosh, my translation skills are so valuable and all the different sub-skills that sit underneath that. And I'm kind of squandering that in the market today, in the way that I utilize that in my career. And hopefully, whether it's one of those 4 methods or a different way, you can expand what you offer and how you get compensated for that. And you can go into a job that's a bit more exciting, a bit more lucrative, a bit more creative, a bit more innovative, just things that really benefit you in your career. So hopefully some good ideas, and gosh, if you're interested in working with us, we would love to hear from you. Anyway, thanks so much.